Hello everyone, welcome to Lesson 9, Use Cases and Storyboards. Today we're going to talk about designing alternatives, but we're talking about the next step, how you might explore and further communicate these ideas. By the end of this lecture, you'll be able to distinguish a scenario from a use case, write a use case, and create a storyboard. Last time we talked about sketching and brainstorming to ideate. Let's say you've come up with an idea. What's next? Well, you might want to start by making a use case. Pop quiz. What's the difference between a scenario and a use case? Well, we talked about the different types of task descriptions before. We talked about task descriptions and scenarios. Those are both ways of capturing what people want to do without necessarily capturing the interface. And scenarios are for a certain type. They're a story that walks through either an actual or fictionalized interaction or with a system without specifying the system too much. For milestone 1, you'll be working with task descriptions and scenarios in whatever form you think is useful to you. But for milestone 2, when we actually start designing a solution, then you want to work with use cases, a task description with an emphasis on the user-system interaction. So this basically means that you now have the task and you pair it with an interface. An example of a use case might be sending an email with Gmail on a desktop computer. And the emphasis here is that you're using Gmail on a desktop computer. All the other things that you want with a task example you want to keep. So in this case, you might want to click on the compose button, and you might see it visually. So that's the next step. And then you click on the to field. If it's not already in focus, you type the email address of the recipient, click on the subject field, click the message area, type a message, and click send. And you see these are very particular for using Gmail on a desktop application. If you're talking about a mobile device, you'd need to change these. If you're talking about some other email client, you need to change them again. And so you really only want to do this after you do the initial task example. In this class, we really split apart the gathering requirements and designing alternative steps. In practice, you might mix and match these a bit more, but it's useful to decide when to use include the interface and when to withhold judgment or assumption of that interface. So now it's your turn. Individually, following the instructions I'll learn, I want you to write a use case based on the handout scenario provided. Make sure you save the use case for later. And I want you to use this interface sketch to give you an idea. This would be a tablet interface called Trippy that helps people plan their trips. You may find this task example familiar from our previous classes. This time, just make up what the interface is doing. Just create whatever elements. You may want to sketch to think about what this interface might look like before you start creating this. Go ahead. This should take about 10 to 15 minutes. I want you to actually try and think through design and get very specific, making up things when you need to, and focus on the form of how you write a use case and be kind of particular about it. Go ahead.